Today, it's expected that Bungie is going to make some changes to Onslaught, making it more worthwhile to run level 50 runs rather than level 10 reset runs. These changes include guaranteeing 2 more weapons to drop upon the completion of a Legend level 50 run, as well as increasing the number of trophies of bravery from waves 30, 40, and 50. This video is going to give you some insights to make farming level 50s less painful, including information on augment spawns and general ad spawns. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to show that you would like more Onslaught videos and more Destiny 2 videos from me. So for this video, I'm going to be referring to Midtown specifically, as I believe it is the most common map that people choose for farming. I will make one for Vostok to post on Wednesday or Thursday, however I will not be making one for the Mothyards because no one farms that map. Midtown has 3 ADU spawns, and each ADU spawn has 3 potential enemy spawn points, and each of those 3 spawn points has 3 vestige zones, as they're called, which is basically a location where enemies can spawn. So let's start with the first ADU spawn that you will encounter in Midtown, which is basically the C flag in PvP. This ADU spawn has 3 enemy spawns, one to the left, one to the middle, and one to the right. For the one to the left, one group of enemies will spawn in the tiny cubby to the left by that little jump up, and the other 2 will spawn by the B flag. The second ADU spawn is in the middle. One group will spawn a bit to the left in this indoor area, and the other 2 spawn straight ahead. The third spawn is on the right side. All 3 of those spawns are then bundled together, so this one is definitely the easiest one to deal with. During the augment waves, you are guaranteed to get that left spawn. So this means is that waves 3 and 9 will always have their enemies spawn on the left side. If you have someone running tether, which I highly recommend, if you're at this ADU, you know where the enemies are going to spawn for those augment waves, which are the hardest waves, so you can pre-place a tether to suppress enemies and then deal with the augment or deal with the enemies as needed. The second ADU spawn we will look at is the B flag in PvP. This ADU spawn also has 3 enemy spawns. The first is to the right. These spawns are a bit erratic, but they all spawn in the cubbies to the right of this long hallway. The second spawn is in the middle, 2 of which are to the left of this courtyard area, and the third is on the right. This spawn is a bit awkward because the enemies can split and go long ways around, making this the most annoying spawn for this ADU, and these enemies can just flank you. The third spawn is on the left, 2 of which are in this little garden area, and the third is just down the stairs. This is definitely the easiest spawn to deal with, as you can just tether inside the garden area, making it extremely easy. During the augment wave, you are guaranteed to get that right spawn, so same thing, you can pre-place a tether if you wish, just at the entrance of this archway, and then that way you can deal with the augment or the ads as needed, with a stress-free augment in mind. The third ADU spawn is the A flag in PvP, and this is by far the worst ADU spawn on Midtown. The first enemy spawn is to the left, 2 of which spawn behind the building on the left, and the third spawns inside the buildings to the right. This is the worst spawn that you can get, because enemies can just flank and go multiple different ways here. The second enemy spawn is middle, 2 of which spawn up by the garden area, and the third spawns just before the garden area on the left. The third enemy spawn is way off to the right. 2 of the 3 zones are on the far right, while the other spawn is just up the stairs. During the augment waves, you're guaranteed to get that left spawn, which is the worst spawn on this ADU. So if you get this ADU, just be very conscious of that spawn and have someone ready to tether to suppress those enemies. Now that we've discussed the spawns, let's discuss enemy trends. So the main thing that you should know here is that the enemy that you're going to be dealing with is consistent for rounds 10 to 50, and those depend on what you had during the first 10 waves. So what I mean by this is if on wave 2 you had Cursed Thrall, on waves 12, 22, 32, and 42, you will also have Cursed Thrall. If on wave 9 you had that Ogre spawn, on waves 19, 29, 39, and 49, you will also get Ogres. This means that you should be aware of what enemies you're dealing with when you're going into an augment. If you have gotten to wave 3 and you've noticed that you're getting Shriekers, you know that every wave 3 augment wave is also going to have Shriekers, which are very annoying. So at that point, you might just want to reset. The last thing is about the augments in general. So there are 6 augments in Onslaught. Those are the Tormentor, Demolitionists, Shielded Demolitionists, Mines, Skybombers, and the Shielded Skybomber. You are guaranteed to see all 6 of these augments during your first 6 augment rounds. This means that if you get a Tormentor on round 3, you will not see a Tormentor again until at the earliest round 33. Additionally, this means if you are about to enter round 29 and you have not yet dealt with Sky Bombers, you are guaranteed to get Sky Bombers as that augment. The first 6 augments basically work on a knockout system. The last 4 augments you deal with are just randomly picked from the 6 augments that you can get. There is the stipulation, though, that you cannot get an augment more than twice in a single run. So this means you will never see 3 Tormentors in a run. You're guaranteed 1 Tormentor in the first 30 waves. You have a 66% chance at a second Tormentor in those last 4 waves, but you will never, ever get a third Tormentor. This also means that you could experience the same augment back to back, but only on waves 29 and 33. So if you get a Tormentor on wave 29, that does not mean that you won't see it again until much later. You could get it on wave 33. So my recommendation on how to deal with augments depends on the augment itself. For demolitionists, I would focus these immediately. Usually I would suggest 2 people focus these, while the third just starts clearing enemies. Sky Bombers, I would suggest 1 person goes and kills the 3, while the other 2 just deal with other enemies. The shielded Sky Bomber, I would just leave until the very end unless your ADU is super weak, in which case 1 person should go deal with it. That being said, if you have the Fallen Sky Bomber, it is very tanky, so it will take 12 weeks for someone to kill it by themselves, so usually just leaving these shielded Sky Bombers until everything else is dead is fine. Plus, that way you can use the orbs to heal the ADU and then deal with it. For shielded demolitionists, these usually die very quickly anyway, but if you're struggling with these for some reason, just have 1 person step in the puddle and break their shields while the other 2 clear ads. Mines, you can usually leave these until the end and you'd have more than enough time. Also, if you have mines on a wave such as wave 23, where you haven't gone into a boss fight yet, so you're going into a building your decoy thing increase, it can actually just explode and you won't wipe. For Tormentors, I would suggest you buy a decoy or turret for it to get distracted on, so each ADU spawn just buy 1 decoy or 1 turret. Alternatively, you can just have someone bait it around the map while the other 2 kill enemies. I suggest you deal with the Tormentor last. Have someone ready to swap to Divinity to make it a lot easier. Now, in terms of ADU spawn, I have not seen anything consistent for what ADU you will get next. Someone told me that if you get the A spawn ADU second in Vostok, you're guaranteed at last, but I know that that's just a flat out lie, as I have not had that occur for me, despite getting the A ADU second on Vostok. So I think that that was just based on a very low sample size. So if anyone does actually know anything about ADU spawns, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed.